What if I told you that every glass of water you drink leaves a trace of its story inside you? This is where the RFTs test quietly begins, not in a laboratory, but in the ordinary moments of daily life. Long before blood reaches a test tube, it has already passed through experiences: a skipped meal, a long day of work, a night of poor sleep, a moment of stress, a moment of care. The kidneys stand at the center of this story, working endlessly, filtering nearly every drop of blood again and again, deciding with remarkable intelligence what the body must keep and what it must gently release. The RFTs test invites us to slow down and notice this invisible labor. These organs are not mechanical sieves, they are living regulators of balance. With every heartbeat, they measure water, minerals, and waste, adjusting the internal environment so that cells can function in peace. When hydration is adequate, their work flows smoothly. When fluids are scarce, they adapt, concentrating urine, conserving what little is available. This adaptability is not weakness, it is resilience written into our biology. In this way, the RFTs test becomes a mirror of our habits. It reflects how often we ignore thirst, how frequently we push the body beyond rest, how quietly stress tightens its grip on circulation and filtration. Elevated waste markers are not punishments. They are signals that the body has been compensating for too long. The kidneys remember these patterns faithfully, even when the mind has moved on. There is something humbling in realizing that our organs carry a memory of how we live. The RFTs test translates that memory into numbers, but beneath those values lies a deeper message. The body is always responding, always adapting, always trying to protect us. When we read these results with curiosity rather than fear, we begin to understand that kidney health is not separate from daily life, it is shaped by it. One choice, one sip, one breath at a time. As we move deeper into the meaning of RFTs, we begin to see that this test is really a study of balance in motion. The body is not a still structure, it is a river, constantly flowing, constantly adjusting. Elements like sodium and potassium travel through this river as quiet messengers, guiding nerve signals, muscle movement, and even the rhythm of the heart. Urea and creatinine, often misunderstood as mere waste, are simply the footprints left behind by life itself, by eating, moving, thinking, and repairing tissue. The RFT's test listens to these signals with scientific patience. When minerals drift beyond their healthy range, it is rarely sudden or dramatic. It is usually the result of small, repeated shifts: dehydration that becomes routine, stress that becomes chronic, illness that remains unnoticed. The kidneys respond by working harder, fine-tuning the internal environment to keep vital organs protected. This is why imbalance often develops quietly, without pain or warning. What makes this profound is that the body does not complain when harmony begins to fade, it compensates. A slight rise in urea may reflect the body conserving water. A change in electrolytes may reflect adaptation to heat, diet, or medication. These are not failures, but strategies. The RFT's test allows us to witness these strategies before they exhaust the system. Seen this way, RFTs is less about detecting disease and more about understanding dialogue. It shows us how the body negotiates survival every moment, adjusting chemistry to preserve life. When we learn to interpret these values as expressions of balance rather than threats, we develop respect for the intelligence of our own biology, and we are reminded that health is not the absence of change, but the ability to remain in harmony while constantly changing. There is something deeply human about kidney function because it reflects responsibility carried in silence. Every second, the kidneys make countless decisions without asking for attention or praise. They evaluate what is useful and what has served its purpose, what must stay to sustain life, and what must be released to prevent harm. In this quiet decision-making, they mirror a truth about the body. and about us, that endurance often goes unnoticed. The RFTs test gives form to this hidden responsibility. It reveals patterns that build slowly over time, shaped by how we live rather than by any single moment. Long hours of stress, repeated exposure to dehydration, unmanaged blood pressure, or subtle metabolic strain do not announce themselves loudly. Instead, they accumulate, and the kidneys adapt again and again, carrying the extra burden without complaint. What is striking is how forgiving this system is. Kidney function does not collapse at the first sign of strain. It adjusts, compensates, and protects the internal environment so that the brain can think clearly, the heart can beat steadily, and muscles can continue to move. When RFT's values begin to shift, they are not accusations, they are evidence of how long the body has been trying to cope on our behalf. In this sense, the RFTs test is an ethical document of biology. It shows us the cost of neglect and the benefit of care, written not in words but in numbers. When we read these results with humility, we recognize that health is a shared responsibility. The body does its part tirelessly, and the test gently asks whether we are willing to do ours by listening sooner, responding kindly, and supporting the systems that have been protecting us all along. Scientifically, the RFTs test is a translator, converting invisible chemistry into values we can see and understand. But beneath that precision lies a quieter truth. These numbers are not labels of failure or success, they are moments in an ongoing story. Creatinine does not suddenly rise to frighten us. It rises because muscle activity, blood flow, filtration, and time have interacted in a particular way. Each value reflects a process, not a verdict. From a biological perspective, this is remarkable. The kidneys do not wait for perfection to function. They work within fluctuation. They tolerate stress, illness, and aging with a calm persistence, adjusting filtration rates to protect the body's internal environment. When a value shifts outside its usual range, it often means the system has been adapting for a long time, quietly absorbing strains so that other organs could continue their work undisturbed. Philosophically, this teaches us something essential about health. Stability does not mean rigidity. A stable kidney function is not one that never changes, but one that can respond to change without losing balance. RFT's values remind us that the body is designed to bend, not break. A temporary rise or fall is not a catastrophe, it is information, an invitation to pay attention rather than panic. When we approach the RFT's test with this understanding, fear gives way to awareness. The report becomes a conversation between biology and consciousness. It asks us not to judge ourselves harshly, but to respond wisely, to adjust hydration, nutrition, rest, and medical care with intention. In this exchange, science offers clarity, philosophy offers perspective, and together they guide us toward a more compassionate relationship with our own bodies. When we arrive at the deeper meaning of the RFTs test, it gently stops being just a medical investigation and starts becoming an invitation. An invitation to notice the organs that work without pause, filtering life itself day and night, never demanding recognition. The kidneys ask for very little, yet they support nearly every system that keeps us alive. To understand RFTs is to acknowledge this quiet partnership between the body and our daily choices. On a biological level, kidney health is sustained by simple acts repeated consistently: adequate water, balanced nourishment, steady movement, and periods of rest that allow repair to occur. These actions may seem ordinary, but the kidneys respond to them with extraordinary efficiency. When supported, they maintain clarity in the blood, stability in pressure, and balance in minerals, creating an internal environment where healing is possible. There is also a deeply compassionate lesson here. The RFTs test does not demand perfection, it responds to effort. Even small improvements, drinking more water, reducing strain, managing stress, can shift the internal balance in meaningful ways. This reminds us that the body is not fragile in the way we often fear. It is resilient, responsive, and always willing to move toward equilibrium when given the chance. Seen through this lens, the RFTs test becomes a guide rather than a warning. It encourages respect for the body's